Welcome to Invisible Glitter, the podcast for women aging with attitude and sparkles. I'm Sandy Parker, founder of the Pink Lady Posse, coach, cheerleader, and your connector in chief for whatever you need to go from what now to what's next. Each episode brings real stories of women rewriting their lives, leaving us with tools we can use and inspiration that motivates. Because your next chapter, it's not about winding down, it's about lighting up. And the most powerful glitter is the kind no one sees coming. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Sandy Parker Martinez with Invisible Glitter, and I am here with Rhonda Taylor from Midlife Rendezvous. How cute is that? So what's on my mind today? We were just talking about living life bolder by the minute. And of course, she comes to my mind because I have this fantasy of what her life is like, but it wasn't always like that. So,
No.
first of all, tell us where you are in the world, and then where was the seed planted for this, what you're doing now?
Okay, so where I am right now is I'm in the U.S. right now. I came back for the summer to visit friends and family because I have been traveling Europe for the last 2 years, and so I'm currently in Maine, where my youngest daughter is, with my two youngest grandchildren. One will be three next week, and the other one is 10 months. I have four other grandchildren. They're all teenagers. Unfortunately, no one lives close. I've got a son in California and a daughter in Florida, and then my youngest daughter's in Maine. So, we're kind of spread all over the place. And then here I am just flying all over the world. So, it's hard to get everybody together. So, so yes, I'm here for the month, and then we'll be going to warmer temperatures because I promised myself, having grown up in Colorado, loving Colorado. However, I no longer want to be in cold and snow and wintry weather. So I think like as I get older, I crave warmth. And so yeah, so
And
I'm
you're
moving to
giving
where
it to
I
yourself.
100%. Yeah.
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 So where's the seed from this?
So as I mentioned before, I was living in Colorado. And I grew up in Colorado, in Colorado Springs, and raised my children there. And then we moved to another part of Colorado that was closer to Denver. And I I have um, 30 years in the self-publishing world as a book designer and a publishing consultant. And so I have a lot of experience with that. And I was designing a book for a woman who took a year sabbatical, took a whole year off to travel around the world while volunteering. And she coined this term as calling it a volunteer vacation, which I had never even heard of before. And yet, designing this book, reading her content, hearing her stories, I was so enamored with this concept. I was just like, I didn't know people did this. And I've wanted to travel my whole life and really did not have an opportunity to do that either as a child or an adult. I was a single mom for many years. So, life happens and some dreams get put on hold, right? So I this author and I, um, we hit it off and we actually stayed connected um, for quite a while. But I was so enamored with her story and her journey that it just never really left my mind. And so 8 years later now, we've moved to Las Vegas. My husband at the time got transferred. So we moved from Colorado to Las Vegas. And I continued in the book design world. However, several years later, probably 5 years later, um, I once again ended up on this roller coaster ride called life. And um, my husband at the time, we decided to separate. And we no longer had any kids living at home by then. We each brought three to the marriage, so we had a blended family. We raised five of them, five out of the six together, um, for 20 years. And so we just decided to part amicably, and we are still great friends today, which I'm very happy about. And, so it wasn't about love lost or the fact that we didn't care. It's just our futures were not aligned anymore. And we could not come up with a happy medium to meet in the middle. Like it just wasn't going to happen. So we decided to separate. And at that point, probably 6 months to a year prior to that, I had already started, like, the the seed that was planted 8 years prior, like it just kept growing and growing and growing. And so what I wanted to do, was write a book, and I wanted to volunteer for a few months. I wanted to volunteer in South America and Central America, and volunteer for other women entrepreneurs, and then interview them and write a book about their stories and kind of connect how we're all related or different, with entrepreneurship in all of these different types of countries. And so that's just something that I decided I wanted to do. And then, of course, after my marriage was ending, I just decided that it was time. It was time to do that.
Okay, so let me ask you a couple of questions because man, oh man. All right.
There's a lot to unpack here, I know.
Well, and it's so pertinent to life, right? Like we have a
Yeah.
life, it's already in process. Nobody wants to upset the apple cart. Change is scary. Then life happens. And what I see is a door opened for you to do what had been resonant in you,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so you decided that was the time. So there's a couple of elements in there that I want to point out, and that is each of us has inside us a song to sing, a message to deliver, a life to live. And whether we put it on hold for a little bit or let the seed grow for a long time, we can take action to make
Right.
our own version of dreams come true.
Hmm.
And what I see is there was a moment, a time, a space, and you said, this is it, I'm going. Now,
Correct.
yeah, and that takes something. But the other thing that would happen to me as a grandmother, and how we over accommodate the whole world instead of
Hmm.
ourselves, we go, well, what are those grandkids going to think? What is my daughter going to think? How can I be so selfish to just take off and travel the world? You know, that had to be in there somewhere.
All of it was.
So
All of it was.
describe how you take the action for your life in the context of many others.
So I will say that I had this dream, but I didn't know the how.
Mhm.
And so real quickly, I'll just add that, once things had been decided between my husband and I belonged to a mastermind in Las Vegas, and I went to them, and I just kind of laid everything out on the table and said, this is my dream. This is why. This is what I want to be doing. I've been trying to save up for this experience for 8 years. Obstacles are always in the way. I don't have enough money. The timing's not right. And I said, um, I would love some input on how I can make this happen. And a very dear friend of mine who was sitting across the table from me, there were probably 10 or 12 people in that group at the time. And my friend looked at me and said, Rhonda, what if you just bought a one-way ticket and figured it out from there?
Whew.
The room fell silent and tears began to flow because it never occurred to me that I didn't have to have the entire trip, the entire plan, because I really just wanted to go for a few months. And it didn't occur to me that I could have just done it little by little, step by step. And that moment was so transformative for me and eye-opening that by the next meeting, which was 2 weeks later, not only did I have the start of my plan, I had purchased a one-way ticket.
No way.
I purchased a one-way ticket to Costa Rica, and I had booked my first volunteer gig. It just set me free. It blocked the mentality that I had to have it all figured out before I could even step away. And the only thing that gave me permission to do any of this was that I had a passport. I didn't consider anything else, and we can get into that later because I didn't speak another language. I had never been out of the country by myself before. I just knew I had a dream and a vision, and I knew how that one question set me free, and there was no stopping me. So it was exactly so the decision that I made to sell everything was very quick. And in 39 days, I had everything sold. I had purchased a backpack. I put all of my heirlooms. I do have a storage unit that's like 5 by 5 of all my special family things that, wouldn't really matter to anyone else. And those live in a storage unit. And I packed up my life and I boarded that plane 39 days later, having sold everything I owned, nearly everything. And I flew to Costa Rica. And there were all kinds of mishaps that happened within the first 12 hours of arriving that probably would have made most people go, yeah, I'm over it, and just gone back to the US. Um, so from Costa Rica, I boarded a bus the next day. I got in at like in the evening. And the next morning, I boarded a bus to Nicaragua to live in the jungle for 30 days,
Oh my
volunteering,
gosh.
volunteering at a yoga ashram for a single mother who was living in the jungle and running a yoga ashram and teaching yoga and things like that. So that was,
Let me just stop you because this is flying by. And
I know.
I just wrote an email this morning and it stayed with me. It's like you're not confidence is not something you wait for. It's something you practice. It's something you build step by step. So what
And
I
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
add courage to that.
Okay. So what I just heard you say was I love the way the room fell silent. And we were talking about what you owe to the whole world. But really you gave yourself a sneak peek, right? Like 3 months is not the end of the world. They'll do fine. And I get my life. I'll go do that. You bought the ticket, you downsized, you sold things. You were taking steps of action the whole way. So now
Yeah, it
you got on the plane with that ticket. Holy cow. And then what is it like sitting in that seat on the way to Costa Rica?
I was a bundle of nerves, and most of it was excitement. Like I was too excited about what I was creating So much so that I didn't think about anything that could go wrong. So I hadn't considered that I was flying into a country where I didn't speak their language, or, that I didn't know the first thing about what to do when I landed in a foreign country. How do the currency and the transportation and the culture, and like, I didn't I didn't really consider all those things. I just knew what I was doing when I arrived. And I just I trusted my gut that I would figure it out.
And if we wait for the how, it
Mhm.
never happens. Because
100%.
no matter what you plan, it isn't going to come out like you planned it anyway.
Right.
So now you're in Nicaragua at the yoga ashram. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, it was a yoga ashram.
Okay, now take it from there.
So before I actually got to the yoga ashram, I was sitting in a bus station in Costa Rica waiting to board, and I had gone up to the counter and showed them my ticket. Did not understand what she was trying to tell me, but what I interpreted that to mean is that I was at the wrong bus station. Like my bus wasn't arriving there. So of course I started to panic. Um, and some small details that I failed to mention is I went to the Airbnb. So I went and stayed at an Airbnb overnight. Okay. What I didn't know is that they only accepted cash. So I basically gave them all my cash the first night. And so I ended up with very little cash to get the taxi that needed to take me to the bus station.
Hmm.
He was late, so I was going to go to an ATM because the Airbnb host was like, "No problem. There's an ATM near the bus station. Have your taxi driver take you there. No problem." He was late. He took me to the wrong place first, and on the way to the right bus station, he hit a car. He got out, surveyed the damage, got back in his car, and we drove away. And in my mind, I'm like, what is happening here? We finally get to the bus station. I go up to the ticket counter. This is where I'm going. I interpreted it as you're not at the right place. And it was hot. I was sweating. It was humid. And I was now panicking. And I'm sitting inside a bus terminal on a bench in tears. And I'm recording my journey. Like, I had so many friends and colleagues who were supporting me with this journey. And so I wanted to document this. And so I did. Um, and this gentleman came across the from the bus station. He saw me and he came over to me, and I'm crying, and I'm like, I'm trying to console myself. Now I'm scared. Now I'm thinking, what the hell have I done? Like, Rhonda, you don't even speak Spanish. I know a few numbers. I know yes and thank you. But I didn't know enough to communicate. And so now it's all kind of sinking in, right? And this man comes over to me, and in English, like, I was just shocked. He comes over to me and says, "Can I help you?" Like, he goes, I see that you're struggling. What can I help you with? And it took me a minute to register that somebody was speaking English to me, right? Because I'm in this country now where all I'm hearing is a foreign language, and it's overwhelming. And I explained to him, what the lady at the ticket counter told me. And he went over with me, and he took my ticket, and he was talking to her in Spanish. And he said, "Okay, what she was trying to relay to you is that you are at the right bus station, but your bus is not going to be coming in the regular terminals. You'll actually have to cross the street to go to another location to catch that bus. And I was like, okay. So now, of course, I'm worried about not getting on the right bus. So this man not only helped me, but he took it a step further. He got me settled. He sat there until I was able to calm down because I was a hot, blubbering mess at that point. Like I was, it was not enough for me to turn back, but it was enough for me to go, I probably should have researched things a little bit more before I just jumped in, right, with both feet. He went over to the security guard and he pointed in my direction and I saw him talking. He came over to me and he said, "That man right over there is a security guard. As soon as he sees your bus, he is going to escort you over and he will make sure that your luggage gets on the bus and that you get on the bus safely." He goes, "I do not want you to worry about a thing. You are going to be okay." And that was my first encounter with my first guardian angel of what would be many who still show up in my life everywhere I go. I have had countless guardian angels come to support me, rescue me, help me in my times of need. And that is why I'm still doing this 10 years later. Not only have I developed the confidence and the courage to continue, because now it's just an absolute passion, but I trust that everything is always working out for me and a solution will always appear, even if it seems to come from nowhere. Because that bus ride, like I got on the bus, I was relieved and I was still emotional. And we got to the border of Nicaragua and I was escorted off the bus because I was missing something that I didn't understand. I had a ticket, so I didn't get to go to the ATM. So I had no cash on me, right? But I had my tickets. So I felt like I was completely fine to get through. Well, the bus driver stopped the bus at the border and he was like collecting things from people. And I'm thinking, okay, they're just giving him the ticket. Well, I have my ticket and they were asking for something else. And I'm like, I don't have anything else. So apparently there was like a fee that had to be paid at the border in addition to the ticket that I knew nothing about. And I didn't have any cash. So the armed guards came and escorted me off the bus, did not allow me to take anything but my purse. I had no idea what was going on. I did not know. And then they took me around this wall where anyone from the bus could no longer see me. So I was now in this secured area and still didn't understand what was happening. And at the time, I did not find it funny, but now I can probably laugh about it. But it was like this long, drawn out thing because there were two armed guards on either side of me. I was like, what is going to happen to me? And they were very, quiet. Nobody was saying anything. They were very serious. And I was just like, what the heck? They escorted me to this brick. It wasn't a wall, but it was like a brick table or something. And connected to it was an ATM machine. And so I took out my card and then realized that they needed more money. So I took out 20 bucks. I think the fee was $13 or pesos or whatever. And so I gave him a 20 and I was standing there waiting for change. And it was very obvious that nobody was wanting to give me change. So I was like, okay. And then they took me back to the bus. That was unsettling. And so I got back on the bus. And of course, I got emotional again because I was like, what now? You know, because I'm still not at my destination. Um, and there was a woman, a local woman, she came over and sat next to me. And her daughter spoke a little English because she came over and she was saying things to me. I didn't understand her, but I could tell that she was trying to comfort me. And her daughter came over in very broken English and said, "My mom says that the angels are with you and that you are going to be okay. Everything will be okay."
What?
I this has been my life. These have been my experiences, and this is why I have so much faith in humanity when I'm traveling, especially traveling abroad. There are, like I said, I have just dubbed them my guardian angels. Like people have just shown up. And so I felt it was enough to make me feel settled and just continue the journey. Um, so I get to I finally, they drop us off at the side of a road. It wasn't a bus stop, it was just the side of the road. And there was like this pool of taxis. And so I found one, told him where I needed to go, and he's like, "Okay, come with me." And so I ended up getting dropped off at the end of the road. So it was probably a mile and a half. I'm trekking with all my stuff. And because I had packed a lot of stuff, and that has since changed, obviously, with what I've learned during my travels. But I got to the yogi ashram or the yoga ashram and started my journey. And what I didn't realize until later is that that set the foundation of my journey. And it set the foundation for what my experiences of a new culture were going to be like. So this was the jungle. The cabin was a shanty. It was just a shack. It had a little kitchen in there. We did the dishes outside. We did the laundry outside. Outdoor porta potties, whatever. They weren't even that. They were literally just outhouses.
Woo.
I slept in a tent, and our tents had these metal like canopies in triangles. Um, and that's where I lived. That's where I stayed. And then there was like this covered pavilion that they did like all the yoga sessions and meditation. So my roles as a volunteer were to fix all the meals, and it was a vegan. So yoga ashrams, like they were very strict. We couldn't even walk around the property with shoes. So you had to walk barefoot. There are no injuries to any living thing, even all the mosquitoes. And I may or may not have hurt a few. um, so I was doing the gardening, I was doing the landscaping, because I was one of the strongest women there. I used a pickaxe and I built trenches. I dug trenches and I built steps made out of clay. I built a sink that I created with clay made from the ground. Like I learned some amazing things. I learned how to whittle a wooden spoon. Like I learned so much about life from a foundational standpoint, like the very, very basics of survival. And I had even been attacked by a scorpion. There was no medical facility, there was no cure. I literally ended up laying in a hammock for 24 hours while the venom ran through my body.
Okay, 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 wait. Now, at this
I,
point,
I'm telling you, there's a lot to unpack. I know.
well, no, so, the whole idea of travel and adventure is a perception that you have, right? That probably
Mhm.
wasn't it, but you're accommodating or adapting. And okay, it sounds it sounds horrible to me. It sounds scary. It sounds disorienting. But what I see in your face is an accomplished woman who can do anything now.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, I'm like, I was talking with a lady yesterday. We have a program called Launching Love, And she goes, I want to do the Launching Love program. And I'm like, we talked for a little bit and I said, you know what? Because she was saying, well, the last time I met my husband, I felt this, I was proud of myself, I was raising my own. She had a high sense of self. And I said, that isn't the right way to start a love search. Let's do something else where you can get to the point where you go, I just did that. Because what happens when you build a confidence in yourself is you become someone new.
Right. Well, and honestly, courage didn't show up all at once. It came in small pieces. First the solo flight, then, the first new city, and then the first conversation with a stranger. And each one made me a little bolder. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets, right?
Mhm.
And um I was in a situation where I had to learn how I had to learn how to adapt very, very quickly, right? And so it just had to become one bold decision after another, um, because I had sold everything. Um, it wasn't an option to go back to my old life,
Well, and
and it was like a metaphor for my life. Like that was my way of truly starting over. Like I didn't know what life was gonna look like 3 months later. I just knew that if, whenever I came back, I could start over.
what I'm hearing also is that you had to be willing to receive help when help came along. I'm really happy when I can do it myself.
Oh, me too.
But did you happen to get the information from that first man?
I didn't.
I mean, do you wish
Um,
you could tell him now what he meant to you in
I,
the story?
s- I so wish. I so wish I could. Um, and there were a few instances, where in hindsight, I wish that I had asked for the information. In the moment, I was just so grateful,
Sure.
and they were just very gracious, appreciative moments. And I wasn't thinking about, you know,
Right.
how that could still impact me years later.
Well, the
It,
other
it,
thing
it-
I get from that is if I were the person and I saw you in the bus station upset, am the kind of person that will go sit by you and say it's going to be all right and help you translate? I mean, being that person in the world is so beautiful from your perspective now. I see that even a
Mhm.
small caring and kindness can be a long-term impact on someone's life.
Oh yeah,
Now,
yeah,
that was years ago, and you've been doing it for 9 years, you said?
yeah.
Okay, so where all have you been, or what all have you? I mean, gosh, there's not enough time in the day. I could talk to you the rest of the day, but where have you gone, and what have you seen, and what is really the life gift that you gave yourself?
Oh boy. So I have been to over 20 countries, and I've had some favorites. And because I've had favorites, I didn't get very far, because I kept going back to the ones I loved because they just felt like home. And my first home away from home was Colombia. I absolutely love Colombia, want to go back to Colombia, but I probably stayed there off and on for two to 2.5 years. South America by far has been my favorite continent. I've traveled now all through Central America, South America. I've had amazing experiences in Colombia, Peru. I lived in Argentina. I went down to Chile. I had some amazing experiences in Ecuador, all volunteering. So as it turned out, the first year of my travels, I ended up volunteering while working remotely. Now, I still needed to make a living. Like that's how I was affording my
Right.
travels, right? Um, so all of these amazing experiences. So I ended up interviewing 12 women through all my volunteer experiences,
For the book.
12 women entrepreneurs. I've yet to write that book.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, but it's been on my heart a lot lately, and I think it's time. Like I have beautiful stories, recordings from these women, and just the heartfelt experiences and lessons that I learned from them while supporting them, while volunteering for them. So I have traveled now through Europe. I just spent the last 2 years in Europe. And one of the things that I have done to afford accommodations, because it can get quite expensive traveling without a home base, right? Um, and the more than the affordability factor, I've been a pet owner my whole life, and I was really missing companionship. Like traveling alone is not my jam. I'm too much of an extrovert to be spending so much time alone, and that is probably one of my biggest challenges. However, I started looking into pet sitting. And, and so I was pet sitting in Europe. Last year, I traveled to 8 countries in Europe pet sitting. I got to spend 2 beautiful months in Ireland. I spent 2 months in Switzerland. I spent a month and a half in Portugal. I spent a month in Spain. Italy. I went to the UK, I went to Scotland, and I had these amazing experiences with pets that I got to snuggle with and love, and it filled my cup. It filled my heart and it filled my cup with something that was missing so badly for me.
Now, how did
And
you
so
get
now,
those? How do you get those gigs? I mean, how do you find the people to pet sit for?
there was an organization that I subscribed to called Trusted House Sitters. And it's essentially you pay an annual membership and you exchange house and pet sitting services for accommodation. So it works out beautifully for me because I get the love of and companionship of animals, and I get to take them places because in Europe they often left me with their vehicles. So I got to spend 2 months traveling through Ireland with dogs who loved being on road trips. Uh, Poppy was a Burmese mountain dog, and like traveling with her was such a joy. And so I got to have amazing experiences. I was pet sitting cats, dogs, a couple of rabbits, and but I have made new friends with the pet owners.
Of course.
And so now I have these amazing experiences. I have amazing new friends. I got to spend a month in the Cotswolds in England, and this little dachshund Jack Russell mix, her name was Zaza. And this little tiny bundle of joy and adventure just opened my heart wide open. And she was the greatest little adventurous. Like she was always up for hiking. I'm a huge outdoor fan, so I'm always outdoors. I'm always hiking, exploring, looking for the next waterfall or beautiful trail. And Zaza was always up for the adventure. So I've just had such amazing experiences with these animals, and I got to travel through Europe, and I chose countries that I was interested in exploring. So I would just go through the app and I'd be like, oh, look, there's some pet sitting in Switzerland. So I was able to do them back to back. They may not have been in the same city or the same part of the country, but traveling through Europe, as you know, is so easy. The buses and the trains and the transportation systems. Like I arrived in in Italy. So my first stop was Venice. I stayed there for a few days, and then I went and took a train down to Rome, stayed there for a week. And then I went to Florence, which is where I was pet sitting for a couple weeks. So I got to travel through Florence. I got to explore the very things that I set out to explore. Um, I had a few days in between, so I rented a car. Um, I I pampered myself in a resort in the hills of Tuscany, where I just could swim and just be surrounded by beauty and vineyards, and like it was magical. So I I'm proud of what I've created for myself, coming from a place of not knowing the how and figuring it out anyway. And not all of these things were planned. Like most of my journeys just happened. Like I didn't have all these countries planned out in the beginning.
Sure.
And because of that first experience, because of my friend saying, why don't you just buy a one-way ticket and figure it out from there? That is how I have traveled for 9 years. I don't have a plan. I just pick the next place, and from there I figure it out.
Okay.
And that has served me so well.
I am so this morning in my mastermind this morning, I was reminded of one of my favorite quotes. And it goes like this: Don't ask the world what it needs. Ask yourself what you need to come alive, and then go do that. Because what the world really needs is a few more people who have come alive. And when I see you,
I
I am so encouraged to live my life my way. And it is a your way because I don't like to hike and I don't want, there's a lot of things about that. But being bold
Yeah.
by the minute is a great way to live.
You know, midlife doesn't have to be bland. And I live mine like a spicy margarita. It's shaken by change, it's stirred with adventure, and it's always served with a twist of possibility. Like I never forget what's possible. I never stop believing what's possible. And trust me, it's not an easy life to do this full time. And I have had many, many ebbs and flows, and I still make mistakes.
You're
So
imperfect.
I'm sorry,
You're imperfect.
I am so imperfect.
Sometimes my husband will say, "You did that or that." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm imperfect. Now what? Now what are we going to do?"
Yeah, I know. I'm just you have to trust. You have to trust and have that blind faith and know that everything is always working out for you, even when it isn't. You have to believe that it will eventually.
Well, I was going to say, what is your one word of advice for women? I think you just said it. But if you could sort of say, okay, as we conclude this time together, this is Rhonda. I have this to offer you, and just speak right at us. What would you say?
Um, if I had to sum it up, I would say I didn't lose myself in midlife. I found the version of me bold enough to play because this journey started when I was 53 years old. So I was already there. And being adventurous has just become such a huge part of my life. It's required courage and bravery, but midlife can look so many different ways. Just like you said, that my lifestyle may not fit your lifestyle, and it doesn't have to. But You don't have to play by the rules that society has set for us. Those societal expectations of, it's midlife is supposed to be more about slowing down rather than ramping up. And I will tell you right now, the majority of my family does not support my lifestyle. And it's very, very difficult to make everyone happy. And the person that I have found most important to be happy is me. I have to continue choosing me. And I understand why they might be worried or, afraid of what can happen to me. But I'm not, because I believe in me and I believe in what's possible. And that's all that matters to me right now. I'm here to make the final chapter of my life the best years of my life in whatever way that suits me.
But bam! That
Everyone deserves that.
that is it, right?
Everyone deserves that.
Oh,
Yeah.
no wonder I love you so much. And when I met you, I was like, it just makes my heart open to possibility because we live in these constraints that are made up and
Yeah.
we live with them, but we can sort of look out and like peer out and begin to dream. So
Right.
it's so beautiful. Thank you so much for just sharing your story. Now, I want to say
Thank you.
Rendezvous, the cutest name I ever heard. And is that going to be part of your book or is that your brand or what? Because that is perfect for you.
That is my brand and business now. So I'm kind of segueing from book creator, although I still design books. Um, However, I'm now launching a mentorship program for women in midlife who want to have the confidence to travel, and they don't have to be living this life full time. They can do it a month at a time, and it doesn't even have to be leaving the country. But I want to show them more than anything what's possible, because I am no one extraordinary. I'm just someone who took action on a dream, and I continue to take actions on my dreams because I'm not done yet. Like, I'm still not ready for a home base. I still want to be moving and traveling and exploring because there's a big, wide open world out there with so many beautiful, kind souls in it. And I want more of that. I want more of that. And everyone deserves happiness. Everyone deserves to, um, made to be, or to feel okay about making choices just for them. It doesn't mean I don't have guilt as a grandmother and a mother, but you learn how to bridge those gaps. I've developed systems now that I stay communicated with my family traveling and things like that. So um, there's always a way. There's always a way, and I'm not done. I'm just not done. I'm 62. I'm not done.
Okay, I'm going to just conclude by restating what you just said. There's always a way. There's always a way. And I'm not done. Thank you so much, Rhonda.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. This was an absolute pleasure and joy.
Great. I will see you in the Pink Lady Posse. Thank
Yay,
you
I'm
so much
excited.
for being with us at Invisible Glitter for women aging with attitude and sparkles. Go to pinkladyposse.com where you will find replays, links, and show notes. Want to know when the new episodes launch? Be sure and sign up for the glitter list. So join us and enjoy being linked into our community of bold, brilliant women who are redefining their next chapter together. Invisible Glitter is free to listen to and a proud founding podcast of the Liminal Network. Please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Share this episode and all of your favorite ones with a friend and on social media.